Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. Actually on the inmendham channel again. So the Google, the evil force, the maniacal, whatever, dark energy thing in the universe, I can post videos for a week or two until they, randomly go through my whatever 5,000 or whatever videos and decide again that something I did 7 years ago violates their terms of service. Whatever. Just so stupid. It's no way to run the earthly railroad, giving these moronic companies control over our fundamental infrastructure. Just a very stupid idea, and unfortunately everybody is so stupid they just won't even peep about it. So it's never going to be on the ballot. Should Google be, blah 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 blah. Nope, no one will ever say anything. We're just it's happening right in front of us, and people just don't give a shit because they're too distracted by what black holes are made out of. Or some other horse shit that couldn't possibly. I'm trying to dig a wormhole in my basement to the other dimension where I have a whole lot of money. I mean, it's just people are impossible. It's becoming obvious, sort of. Certainly from my personal experience, I'm seeing some of this, where you just can't have a rational conversation with anybody because they have so many just insane, idiotic premises sitting out there as some sort of truth, and you're saying, "Why? I'm not going to argue that. That's nonsense. Why do I have to include that in the model of how things work? Why do I have to include that wacky bit that you've made up?" And it just goes on and on. So it's very frustrating because I would argue that all these truths and stuff are pretty easy. The economy's pretty easy to understand. The whole unlimited credit card analogy works very well. All this debt goes into the economy. The rich people own it. There's still claims on your life. They can at any time decide that you have to pay them back, and then you won't have the money, and blah 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 blah. So the economy is bankrupt in the sense that the rich people own all of it, and you don't own anything. Even if you think you own something, you don't really own it because you're part of the United States of America or whatever country it is, and whatever country it is, you owe a whole pile of big fucking money to a bunch of rich fuckers, and that's just a fact. It's a really important fact and nobody wants to pay any attention. Anyway, I've done videos on the subject that don't get much viewership, and it's to your deficit in terms of getting anything right that you miss those videos, frankly. It's sort of important stuff, but whatever. We'll just move on. So this week's adventure was I did an interview thing with a guy called Magnus Vanding, who wrote a few books. Writing is it's not an easy thing to do, and some people have a lower threshold, I guess I would argue, for making sense. And see, I have a hard time writing because I want everything to be in the right order, and it has to be explained perfectly, and there can't be any wacky sentences in there at all and all that kind of crap. So it's work, and I don't like it. So I haven't done much of it, especially recently. Just take notes, put things in spaces and connect them with lines. Actually do that in my notes. I connect things with lines. But anyway, neither here nor there. Point being, nice enough guy fighting for the cause of less suffering in the world, but in a way that has nothing to do with anything I give a shit about. And so we spent 2 hours talking right past each other. Apparently I was on the subject of ephilism and antinatalism, and he was on the subject of like pig heads in space or something. Some sort of all the worries, like all the craziest things you could try to make up as a scenario, like Dr. Evil takes over and he forces everybody to, I don't know, think of something really stupid. Yeah, oh, let's see, what could he force everybody to do? Like plant weeds, everywhere. So there's more weeds everywhere or something. I don't know. But anyway, and it's like, well, fine. You want to worry about that. That's sort of, I guess, your prerogative. I'd say it's a little stupid, but okay, go ahead and worry about that. Try to stop it with your special plan of stopping it by what? Planting signs that say, don't plant weeds? I don't know. Well, anyway, don't even know how to analogize the futility of conversation because it was just, 2 hours and there just you couldn't get to a sentences that could be exchanged upon which there could be any agreement. It's sort of like the superhuman dance. Water all of a sudden isn't wet. We didn't invent the word wet to describe the qualities that water has, when obviously that's exactly what we did. Just as we invented words like good, bad, based on the fact that we felt good and bad. And we associated things that are happening with negative feelings that we would have, and then we could understand if I said to you, it's bad, I'm basically saying to you, it's like having a bad feeling. It's like feeling bad. It's a bad thing. You don't want it to happen again because it's like feeling bad, and you don't want to feel bad for no good reason. Well, anyways, so yeah, it's like here I am talking about the ABCs of even vocabulary. We just can't even agree on what words fucking mean, for fuck's sake. Okay, I'm not supposed to say that. Trying to excrete from my conversation any of the words that just offend people. They're offended by everything, so everybody's offended by something. It's just so irritating. Offended in some catastrophic way where they have to drive the car into a tree if you say the word. This makes no sense at all. All right, so anyway, spent 2 hours, read his book, did all this crap for this thing, and then he didn't want to broadcast. So I'm going to put it up on my website, so it will be there for starters, and it probably eventually will be somewhere else. Yeah, but anyway, certainly it will be. It's an inmendham event. It did take place in my life, and it's a reference that's real, and so yes, it will be available. But yeah, I can't say it's not going to hurt you any, because it hurt me to make it. But it does get to the point where, come on, these aren't, these aren't difficult concepts. Why is there even any controversy about these ideas? So it's like somebody says to you, people will never believe that. Well, you believe it. What do you think? Somebody put a spell on you, like a fairy godmother or something, and that's the only way you believed it is because some miracle took place? It's like, if you can believe it, then yes, other people can believe it. You just have to sort of create a similar circumstance. You have to have them realize it through some like mechanism. It can't be the same one because that's too coincidental. It'll be pretty hard to make them believe for exactly the same reasons, the exact same process of acquiring knowledge of. But it's not like you're born with it. So obviously we do acquire these things, and if I can walk outside and realize, oh, there's a pebble, and I'll pick it up and it's shiny, then I guess some other person can also have a similar experience. They can pick up pebbles and say, oh, shiny, shiny. So it's not that difficult. But anyway, these are just, like you're just saying, these are ABC arguments. I shouldn't have to argue against notions of impossibilities and all this other stuff when there's all kinds of examples in human history of things that didn't seem very likely, but they happened anyway, didn't they? Duh. Alright, so yeah, so eventually it will be here, and there are the economic videos and the other videos I have made, blah 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 blah. So anyway, so videos, yeah, I will be posting them here for the most part for the future until YouTube does something, Google more specifically, to make that not practical again. So the website is there for all you people. There's really no point in see if you have to say these things, right? I mean, it is kind of ironic. There's quite a few people. It's not like just one who, you're not making videos anymore. Where are you? I mean, and I've been putting donotgod.com in the videos for a long time. I say right in the video, I'm going to be posting the videos on the website. And still, they fail to catch that somehow. You're just saying, what? You really don't watch the videos, right? Okay, I get it. All right, so you don't really watch the videos. So my answer, right? So yes, of course, the commenters aren't very on the subject because they don't even watch the videos. So yeah, so really, the whole thing is quite dismal. I'll endeavor to persevere, but yeah, it does look quite dark here on this planet for any hope of a rational conversation, rational interchange or exchange of sentences about what reality is, and it really shouldn't be that difficult. So I'll attempt to draw you a picture of the basic idea here, what we're doing with our brains. And I'm going to do it in the process of a bunch of videos. Probably eventually I'll just convert this into a series of videos, just going point by point and just saying, where did you miss? Is this, there's only like 4 or 5 facts that are important, and where did you fall off the rail here? This isn't hard to follow along. So we have this idea that we have intelligence, so we can just draw that. We have a brain, and brain can do stuff called logic, but logic, it's on the board, right? Yeah, it is. It depends on things called facts. So you have to acquire these facts, and then you put the facts together with logic, and everything works out fine. Logic and facts create a nice little circular thing where they just go round and round. Logic creates, mixes 2 facts together, comes up with a 3rd fact. The 3rd fact goes in, you can make more facts. So it's a nice little circular thing your brain can do when it's doing this thing called thinking. Thinking is just associating. You associate dog with cats because they're, yeah, I don't know why you do, because they're common pets and they don't like each other or whatever. Black, white, the simple ones, lots of simple opposites, you get that part, the differences. So you're really just looking for things that distinguish things, things that are not the same as something else, and then you call it a new word. Like wet is different than dry. Okay, water has the wet thing, and sun has like the dry thing. So you make associations, and you do it kind of logically. You figure out that you can't walk through trees, and you can't walk through rocks, and so rocks and trees are alike in a sense. You can't walk through them. Things that have stuff in common, blah, 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 blah. And so that's all your brain is, can do these things because it makes you more efficient in being a monster on Earth, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to know why we have it. We have it. So we have this ability. And you could call what this does, you could call it science. And see. Pretty close, I think, anyway. So that's basically what science does, is it tries to do this logic and fact thing carefully enough to get right answers, not make any mistakes, not make any false associations like my keys are missing, the gremlins took them. You don't want bad logical connections being made where you're making up some kind of crap, or you're using an excuse, or you'd like to believe, something bad happens to you, you blame the neighbor you don't like, even though you don't have any evidence, just because, well, it's nice to blame the people you hate. Scapegoating, all kinds of different things you can be. So scientists try to not do that. They try not to scapegoat or rationalize, or they try not to have a bias in doing this fact and logic thing. So let us give you the benefit of the doubt and say, look, we're all basically scientists in terms of that's the basic function of our brain, and it's really there just to get it right. So it's really just to describe the world the way it is, to accurately draw the picture, to model in your brain, well, that'll work, model, okay, the idea is to model, okay, the universe, the world, everything, to understand it properly, get all the ABC little blocks in the right order, get the right understanding of what the words mean and what things do, phone rings, paper right, cup drink, get all this stuff right. So that's the objective, is to understand. Now, let's see, as it is, understand. Yes, so you want to understand the world the way it is, not some other frickin' way. You want to get it right. So you want to get the right answers. Probably could use more chalkboard, less blah blah blah. So I probably could go this way a little bit. All right. Yeah. Okay. And in doing that, okay. So let's just say. So what do we have here? We're in a. I can probably erase this bottom part. All you really need is to understand science. Okay, so yeah, so what I also wanted to point out, okay, so let's say this is the category of what thinking is doing science or doing discovery or detective work. Then there's two subclasses, you could say, of that. Okay, there's physics, is understanding the physical processes, and then there's the emergent phenomenons that you could put in like the value category. Something like that anyway. Close, maybe. Anyway, yeah. So there's another, let's see if I can think of another word for the abstract stuff. The stuff that's process. Okay, so this is like... you could say function, and this is like processes. You could understand it as, well, this is the physical arrangements of bits, and this is what the physical arrangement of bits is producing as a phenomenon, okay, a change in the universe. But it's all just about understanding that the universe is changing. But anyway, I just want you to understand that this you could call philosophy. So when you're talking about value, that's philosophy. And when you're doing this physics thing, okay, that's more directly what we call a science. But I'm just saying it's all in the same category. It's all seeking the truth. Truth. That's what you're... Okay, that's what you're after. Doing this whole process. You just want the truth, right? Isn't that what you people want? I mean, come on, don't you want to know the truth? You don't want to be deluded and silly and stupid and foolish. You want to be smart and clever and right. You don't want to be wrong. You don't want to get the answers to these things wrong. And I'm arguing that, frankly, you can see where you're going wrong really easily. And you can make really sensible arguments about when you've gone wrong. So this shouldn't be that difficult. So anyway, so what I'm doing here in these videos, mostly on the inmendham channel, is the value argument. And on the physics channel, I'm doing the physics argument. But there are two separate arguments. I mean, one's about what's happening, and one of them's about why it's happening. So anyway, so what we're trying to describe, what we're trying to get accurate, is this understanding of this thing called, okay, first you got the universe, the whole big thing, whatever it is, and you know that most of it is just these, you got little galaxies floating around here, and then inside the galaxy, you got solar systems with little planets, but it's mostly just a bunch of rocks flying around, banging into each other. We're talking about real elemental matter. There's a bunch of this stuff called radiation that's flying through here all the time, smashing everything to bits, and so nothing can get very big or complicated or sophisticated because of the physical process. But it is possible that in certain little locations, okay, has happened, and there's nothing magical about this universe, right? It's just a mechanical thing. It doesn't do anything spectacular. It doesn't have God written on it somewhere. There's no, God didn't sign it. There's no signature on this painting, right? It's not like a Van Gogh with a big Vincent written on it somewhere. So there's no way of knowing who painted this slop. but it clearly is slop. So you can kind of know it's not really a painting because it's so unsophisticated in so many ways, the elemental functions. And the trick is you can know that, okay, so in certain locations in the universe, it's very quiet. You can have little earthly planets, and that aren't getting radiated to pieces and all that kind of stuff because they're far enough out in the galaxy and it's quiet enough and blah, 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 blah. And so they can spend a few billion years in peace and quiet, and more complex crap can happen. Molecules can get bigger and stuff can grow on the surface of a planet. Clearly possible because it happened here. Okay, how probable it is, well, that's part of these conversations. In sort of explaining how it's not very probable. But anyway, lots of coincidences and one-time events required to get very, very complicated. So anyway, you get the idea, right? So there's a planet where chemistry can evolve, and that's really all this whole thing is just going to be about, is the big evolution thing. Symbols for evolution. I need a simple symbol for evolution. The DNA molecule. Yeah, that's a pretty simple symbol for evolution. And all evolution means is that, chemistry, things stick to each other. The little hydrogens can stick, and then you can have another bigger atom, and another bigger atom, and those three atoms can stick together and make a compound. And eventually you can make, compounds can be made that have this replicating feature, and it's a very simple process. DNA isn't doing anything spectacularly hard to understand. There's two strands for simple purpose, and the purpose is that if you cut the freaking molecule in half, it has two ends that are sticky, okay, and it will remake the other rung of the ladder, so to speak, and so then you'll end up with two, new ladders. And so that's the simple process of the replication. It isn't like magical or something. It does take some. It's not as simple as I drew it. Quite obviously, it takes the fact that you have to have an environment where you can have a molecule that goes through and does the cutting. There's rules to it. You have to have a membrane so all the right compounds get in there in the first place, so you can rebuild the ladder without having a bunch of stuff you don't want in there, like arsenic or something in your DNA. Your DNA molecule might end up having the wrong amino acid stick to it, or the wrong element stick to it, and make it quite toxic to the rest of the process. So it all has to have some mechanism. So there was membranes that were formed, and then another key event in evolution was this cell, that was a membrane with just junk in it, ended up going inside another cell and staying alive. And that was a key thing in evolution, is to have this two membrane wall kind of thing where your DNA is really protected now, because you have to go through two walls to get to it. And that was a key feature in our evolution. But anyway, a whole bunch of these little events to evolve into something, and the real game, that's happening. So this is one part of the universe. We don't need the universe anymore, but you could probably understand it has all this junk in it and same stuff. But the key thing to understand is this process takes time. So you have these key things that happen in the universe. I think I wrote a note of it. Change, age, complexity, and then what? Yeah. Something like it would just, that leads to evolution. Let me bend my neck a little. And do over and rinse and repeat. But that's the key to evolution. So the fact is, the universe has these bits in it. It has movement. The movement means there's going to be change. It means that change has an evolution to it. I mean, a time scale to it, that it can happen over like I said, on planet Earth, we've had 4 billion years to cook, to age the processing, so you can get some pretty funky stuff if you have enough time for these molecules to bang into each other. You can make all kinds of combinations. You can end up with a DNA molecule, and then you can end up with enough time, a couple of extra billion years, for that DNA molecule to turn into a human being. And that's the simple truth. And, you know, if you can't get this one right, you know, it's kind of pathetic that, you know, if you can't figure out that this wasn't made by a god, that this has the same little fingers that the fishies have. Okay, the fish have the same number of little fingers. I mean, why would God give the little fishes the same number of fingers as us? I mean, come on. He wouldn't even give us enough pride to have a couple of extra fingers or something. You know, why would he leave the same parts in that thing that he put in this thing if this thing was supposed to be special? So it's not really special. Now, it's special in the sense that it can walk on the ground. And, you know, so a long time ago the fish came out, walked on the land. And, but, you know, we have all the same parts, the spinal cord, all the features of the fish are still the lung, all of that crap was in the fish first. The penis, so it was in the fish first. Okay, all that stuff was fish stuff. And, yes, now we've got it. And so we're fish, but, you know, now we're just doing this big brain thing, right? We're just pretending now that's really cool. So yes, we have a tool. Everything has tools. There's fish that can shoot water and knock bugs down. There's fish that can, you know, do all kinds of, they can electrocute you. You know, there's fish that can turn lights on and off and scare you. You know, lots of things fish can do. And so we can do something too. We have a little special feature, which is we have a big, giant, fat brain. And lots of other mammals have exactly the same brain. But there was things in the fish I just want to emphasize that are fundamental to our function. Fish were being rewarded and punished for their behavior. So when they did something that was conducive or productive, they tended to get rewarded with a good feeling. When they did something stupid like knock one of their fins off, then they felt pain. Okay, to discourage that kind of recklessness. Don't go too close to the rocks. Don't swim right on top of them. Don't do this. Don't swim into the sea anemone and get stung. So there was already in this little fish brain a mechanism of reward and punishment, a way of saying do it or don't do it, good, bad, by causing a sensation, okay, a degrade in the state, a whip. So you could just say the whip was invented. You could say the hammer was invented. It doesn't really, I can make it into anything I want to, right? I don't have to stick with the old analogies. So yes, the hammer was invented. You could whap things with the hammer and say no, 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 no. And yes would be not whapping them with the hammer. So if you did something and it didn't feel bad, then you'd say that's good. So that's all you really need is the hammer. All you need is the ouch. So somewhere in the process of evolution, something went ouch. What is that, like O-C-H? Yeah, something went ouch. And game on for reward and punishment learning. So now things could live their life and they could change who they were. So the original animals were really, you know, I don't want to insult turtles. But turtles can learn, okay? They're just not very smart. Can't do a whole bunch of this free stuff. They can't, like, be unique. Turtles, you know, can't decide they're in a mood, you know, and dye their hair or something. So they have a bunch of programs that are just written by nature, you know, how to swim, tendency to eat certain things, time to have sex, whatever it is. They're kind of stimulated just kind of in a crude way, not really by life experience. But they clearly do learn. They learn how to sneak up on sea anemones and whatever other thing they might eat, or man of wars or whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, don't want to get too distracted by this process, beyond understanding that you could be programmed by different things, in the sense that you can have this brain can have pre-wired programs like hatch from the egg and get to the water and swim. See, we can't do any of that. When we're born, we can't do shit. No functions at all, really. Almost like zero functionality. So clearly we're not wasting any of the brain with a bunch of old programs that tell us how to do something. We basically just have no programs that are already written, and all of them will be written by the experience we endure. And so we get maturated, and it takes years and years and years for us to fully utilize this brain thing. You know, you have to spend years feeding the brain with facts and information and life experiences of ouch, to be taught how to function in the world that exists. But I would argue that some of these themes should be detectable by all people. Some programs should be common, like be a decent person, do your thinking properly, don't be a liar and a cheater, don't rationalize, don't make excuses, don't scapegoat, don't strawman, don't bullshit. But anyway, all right. So how far from this process do I? So we're kind of so we're fish brain, underneath it all, but it's just one that's now got detached from this idea that we have to pop out fully functional. We don't pop out fully functional. We pop into a world, and we could live on a mountain and then be a mountain human, or we could be a valley human, or we could be a shore human, or an inland human. So we can adapt to any environment, and that's the whole point of us having this brain that's adaptable, is that it makes the organism more adaptable, stronger. It makes them a better competitor. And that's the underlying function of the whole thing, is just to do this competition thing, right? So all these organisms are created out of this DNA molecule modifying, okay? So what happens is the most popular, the most successful mechanism of replication. So that's another step in evolution, is, originally the DNA molecules just split and then created a copy of themselves. But now they split, okay, and they stick two different halves from two different organisms back together. So they don't remake the molecule, they remake a half, okay, that's somebody else's half that's similar. And so now you can take two organisms and they will have a separate evolution. The path to them will be very different generations of people. Like an Italian will meet a Frenchman or a French person, and they will create some sort of Italian Frenchie. And they both might have come from the same source 10,000 years ago, but they've had a lot of differences, lots of their genetics have changed, and so they make some new thing, some new mutant. And that'll have some characteristics of both, depending on what features end up being dominant and all that kind of stuff. And so this works better over time, is to create this variation in structure, because with every error you make, there's a possibility of a happy accident. So the basic idea is that you have 1 million, accidents. All right, and those 1 million accidents mean 1 million living beings. Okay, so we're all, the thing is living in. So, well, no point putting that in there. So you have 1 million, and the truth is one of that every million, just, junkers, experiments. One of them will have a new feature that's really good. Just overtly makes them better at doing things, more efficient in the world that exists. So if you have a world where stealing money is really good, they'll have really sticky fingers and can steal money really easy. So it's all like this kind of proportion. To gain this one that's advantageous, you dispose of 1 million that wasn't advantageous, that wasn't an improvement, that wasn't any of that stuff. And that's sort of how the game works. Is the whole principle is like an octopus has, on average, let's just make it, let's not go too high, 5,000 children. 5,000 little octopi pop out, with little squiggly arms and little squiggly octopus hopes and dreams. And clearly, in the end, only 2.2 of them are going to survive. Or some kind of stupid number. Obviously only replacement, because they don't really grow in population. So 5,000, and only 2 of them get to maturity out of 5,000. And there's a ton of examples of that's what the game nature's playing is let's just dispose of a ton of these things. Let's make a ton of them. Most of them we'll concede are defective. That is, they haven't been improved. And we only give a shit about the improved ones. The tiny percentage that will be improvements. And that's why we'll kill 5,000 in, really fast. Someone get killed in, minutes, seconds. From birth. They're getting sucked up and consumed. Terrible attrition. And it was true for humans too in their history. You could, maybe you can find justification for explaining to me personally how only an imbecile would find it gratifying and enjoyable to go from, say, age 13, where you have your first baby, okay, to, say, age 30, okay, where you're having your 10th one, okay, and you've watched 8 of them die. And that's been your life experience. From 13 to 30, you watch 8 children of yours die of some horrible thing. They get killed by hyenas, or they, get a disease, or they get an infection, or they fall off a cliff, or they break this, or something just doesn't work, they get cancer, whatever, big tumors growing on their head, and that you'd want to live that life, watching that. That's cool. That's to you like a good video game, is watching your kids die. You'd go out to the store tomorrow and buy the game, watch your kids die, because it's so much fun. And it doesn't leave any lingering pain or suffering. It doesn't bother you at all. You forget it like it was nothing. Now, I could analogize it, because some people really do get invested in their pets. I mean, I've certainly had that experience. And they weren't even my pets. They were just cats that showed up, and I fed them, and I got to know them. And it plagues me, Frank. It just sits there and haunts me that they didn't get it good enough. Their death wasn't good enough. Lots of sad, tragic moments having to be witnessed. And I'll never get those stains, those dark cracks out of my, whatever you want to call this thing, my identity, my soul. No, it's not going. That's not going anywhere. And this whole idea of these people with their God crap and their delusions about function here, do they really think what you want to go to heaven and forget about the beloved? You want those cracks just to be erased? Like all your memories? Yeah. So, that's the irony, right? Jesus says right to you, heaven is not of this world. You're not going to know your first wife. You're not going to remember. You're not going to remember any of the crap that was here on earth. So what the fuck are you going for anyway? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It doesn't make any sense at all. All right. This isn't exactly the way I wanted to get to here. It's just making a machine, and like I said, our tool is our brain, and our brain can enable us to figure out how to scheme for ourselves, to get more food in our stomach, or relief to our blah blahs. But yes, that's all where the brain is working for. It's working to feed the machine. And what is the machine for? Well, the machine is sort of like when I was talking about that DNA molecule, okay, and the DNA molecule was inside a membrane, and then the DNA molecule went inside another nucleus, inside another cell to find 2 membranes. We're just a third membrane, okay? The body is just another protector of the DNA molecule. That's all the body exists for. That's all its use is to take the DNA molecule out into the world and succeed and plant more DNA molecules out around the world, to spread it around. But that's all the arms and legs and the brain, that's all the rest of these tools are for, is just to transport this thing and get it planted, spread throughout the world, and to protect it, to create an engine for it. You have to kill this whole big giant monster to get to the DNA. You can't kill the DNA unless you kill, you lop this thing's head off, or you do, So we're just monsters carrying a molecule that's attempting to spread and win a competition. And the competition is like the 5,000 little octopi. The 5,000 octopi are competing with each other to be the lucky ones that survive, and they're competing with all the other organisms to be more octopuses than moray eels. So they're fighting the rest of the world, and they're fighting each other. And that's all it is. It's a big fight game. It's just gladiator war. It's just like reopening the Colosseum and, fitting yourself with a bunch of A-team gladiators and B-team gladiators and just say, go ahead, cut the shit out of each other, annihilate each other, and have one guy hold up his sword and say, I win today. And then next week he gets killed too. And so it's just a massive slaughter. And nothing's ever accomplished. Nothing ever wins in this battle. They're just machines, just membranes protecting DNA molecules, going into some acid baths to fight each other off and do all this stuff, and they endeavor to persevere. Okay, because they're programmed to win. Be a winner, be a winner, be a winner. Make losers. That's all being a winner is, right? You're just a loser maker. When you're a winner, you're just a loser maker. Because there is no free lunch. There is no free winning. Winning has to come out of the blood of all the other organisms. Has to come out of the blood of your brothers and sisters. That's the only place it comes out of. You got to bleed them to win. This little fishy doesn't get to go into the future unless he beats the shit out of everything that he comes across, essentially. He has to constantly defeat something, defeat it, turn it into garbage, cut its head off, expose its DNA molecules so it dies, kill the DNA, kill. So it's a big kill game, and that's all it is, and it doesn't do anything else, and it's just fads, right? 300 million years ago, big Tyrannosaurus teethed monsters ruled the world, right? Where are they today? Where's the Tyrannosaurus today? Right there, they lost. All right, so and maybe 100 million years from now, they're going to be back, and they're going to be the winners. So the contest isn't really for anything. It's not like you're making something perfect or better or getting to some standard or going up a staircase. You're just changing the look. You're just saying skirts are 2 inches above the knee, and then skirts go to 10 inches above the knee, and then their skirts go back to 6 inches, and then you're just changing how high the skirts go. What's in fashion this year? That will be the kind of organism you have, whatever's in fashion. And so clearly we're the winners right now. We're doing quite well at spilling the other people's DNA and all that kind of crap. We've certainly cut down on some of this attrition, so the human life isn't quite as bad. We don't have to watch 8 kids die. We don't have to do a lot of the brutal things they had to do in the past. But that's still what we are. It's still the basic function, and we can understand that certainly in nature, all of this horrible stuff is still happening. The 8 little lion cubs, for any of you people that give a fuck about understanding that animals are having real sentient experience. 8 of them have to go. For one. 8 to 1 ratio. You got to kill 8 to have 1 that reaches maturity. What are you thinking? You thinking it's a good idea? You're thinking, oh yeah, sure, that's okay. That's acceptable slaughter. If in human society we allowed pedophiles to kill off 8 out of 9, of the children in the world, that'd be perfectly okay. No problem there. Sounds great. No, nobody would say that. Nobody would say, yeah, let's continue that. Perpetuate it. It's a good game. Good fun. Alright, I don't know. Maybe we'll take a break and see if there's any other key concept that I need to get to. There's obviously stuff. I haven't gone through all of the important bits about what programs us and popular memes and all the bullshit that has manipulated our brains over time. But it's key thing to understand is the physical evolution has fundamentally stopped. We're not selectively breeding in any kind of rational sense. There's no it's not even an evolutionary sense, right? I mean, we're all tainted by technology in one way or another and dependent on it. So we're not physically getting stronger and all that kind of stuff. We're clearly getting physically weaker and more dependent on medicines and different things to keep us alive, to ever even reach maturity, to even have kids, blah, 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 blah. So we're becoming more feeble physically. But the truth is our brain, okay, is capable because it's getting more and more knowledge. So, in the last 300 years, we've gained a hell of a lot of constructive knowledge about facts of science and things. But unfortunately, the science is now, since Einstein, gone real wooey, and fantasy unicorn crap. They don't do any of that practical science anymore. And they can't have a practical conversation even about something like evolution. So clearly, in the beginnings of the whole Darwin discovering and Darwin pointing out all these facts. See, Darwin gave you a really good description of why you should believe in evolution, because there's so much evidence. And it's just all over the place. Just dig a hole in the ground and you can find evolution. But he just started the conversation about, gee, this looks pretty dismal. I mean, this is a pretty horrible thing to be the byproduct of. It looks like there's a horrible, awful amount of brutal attrition. Things are just getting slaughtered all over the place. And clearly no rational thing could ever contemplate creating all of this harm and suffering for a stupid gladiator war, a stupid bullfight. No, you'd ban it. You'd say, nobody rational does this shit. Nobody's cruel on purpose. And clearly cruelty has to be justified. You have to have a good reason to be cruel, and there's no good reason here. There's just some delusion in a little brain saying, I'm having fun, therefore it's okay if things are being tortured. No, torture isn't a proper payment. It's not even close to a rational arrangement. There's no absolute good. There's no real good that you can describe, except you're holding your bloody sword up going, I win. What beyond that? Where's the evidence of any accomplishment of any kind at all, of any value, of anything valuable created? What, Empire State Building or something? Where are you going to come up with this thing that's worth torturing things for? I mean, it's just nonsensical. But anyway, that's a whole philosophical thing. I mean, that's a value question. If you either value torture or you don't. And if you value it, this is a real problem, what's going on here on planet Earth. And it can be explained as a real problem here on Earth. The problem here on Earth is hammer, smash, crush, kill, destroy, bad, and we're not doing a damn thing about it except making it worse. Finding out, rationalizing insidiously stupid, inefficiencies in how the system is played. Terrible high maintenance. Some people think they're worth $1 million a day. I can spend $1 million a day because I am worth it. Yeah, how so? How so is your brain doing anything better than what all the other brains are doing in terms of feeling? Oh, that's right. It's not. So you're starving people for nothing. To be self-indulgent, to be a squanderer, a waster. Waste should always be obnoxious to somebody who understands what's being wasted. You don't waste suffering, ever, 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 ever. It's just logic says that can't work. Yeah. Enough in this drawing for now. And I will pause for a moment and contemplate if there needs to be anything else said. I should be back. Alright, so just finishing up. I don't think we need more on the subject. I mean, like I said, there's people who are going to cling to religious interpretations. People who are going to cling to some idea that we have biological impulses that I say clearly don't exist. I mean, I could have gone on to the whole, the whole sex argument. We have no replicating drive. We do not desire to replicate ourselves, to have children or any of that stuff. No animal, even the human animal, has any pre-knowledge that sex results in babies. And clearly the motivation for sex is clearly don't got baby on it at all. I don't think a male has ever had sex ever. Thinking about how vagina, blah, 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 that baby will come out. And that's going to be so exciting. And it gets them even more into it. Yeah, I don't think that's ever even happened. Clearly the motivation is just a sensual impulse that has nothing to do with procreating, except nature knows that's the consequence. And likewise we know, and that's why we wear condoms. We know how it works. You mix the two chemicals together, so to speak, the egg and the sperm, and it does that DNA thing. But we have no pre-knowledge of any of that. We have no innate knowledge of that. And it's just kind of a silly notion to think there's a clear association in our brains between sex and babies. There can't be any clear association. And it just doesn't exist, and it's just nonsense. So we have no desire to reproduce. We have a desire to have sex, and it's clear. And the fact that I even have to explain that to people is one of the imbecilities of existence, that this is how dumb or how belligerently stupid or how moronic human beings have become. They are full of so many lies and so much horse shit that their brains are now repugnant to facts. They can't mix facts with their bullshit. The facts don't mix well. Facts are oil, their bullshit is water, however you want to look at it. And so they have to keep rejecting them. They have to keep pushing the facts away because they're not compatible with their bullshit notions. And it's finding the bullshit notion that's the tricky part. Clearly, with all of these people, there's some underlying horseshit. And they're pretending, it's like they're all secretly in some sort of religious club or some sort of, fantasy notions. And they won't overtly just tell you, I'm a Buddhist. They won't overtly just say why. They're trying to pervert the facts into such weird shapes. And you're saying, why are they doing that? Why is somebody arguing with me that there's some more important agenda than stopping the 5,000 baby octopuses from being slaughtered? What's the more important agenda? I mean, and that's just a representation of one tiny percentage of all the harm being created in the natural world. Why would anybody think there could be anything more important? There's trillions and trillions every day of organisms that are sentient, that feel, that are being hammered, real pain. Why should I think something else is more important? And there's no answer to the question, yet they're trying to say there is some other answer to the question. It's some other bullshit, like pig heads in space or something. It's much more important. No, sorry. Anyway, so there just seems like there's all that kind of stuff going on here. People are objecting to something I've said here in these videos. Because they have bullshit that's incompatible with the truth. So they have to fight it. They have to resist it. They have to pretend it's not true. I mean, it's like the simple argument about the economy. I mean, it's insane amount of deficit spending. It's buying on the credit card. The government has a credit card. The credit card company is the rich. They're borrowing the money from the rich. Okay, get it right. They didn't borrow it from nobody. They're borrowing it from rich people. They own the credit card company, and people are saying somehow it doesn't matter. They're never going to ask for the money. You're just like, why aren't they? Why do you think they never will? You don't think there's ever going to be a time when things will go a little south and they'll need the money? Yeah, there will be. And you're not going to have it. And they're going to put you into slavery to get it. Well, anyway, no point in even going into it. Clearly, as their wealth increases, yours diminishes. If we have one pie, and it's like the play, The Producers. I've sort of explained this before, but I mean, these are simple analogies, right? You can oversell something. I could go out and I have this bottle of body spray. I could go out and sell it to 17 different people, without giving to them, just saying, I'll mail it to you. I can collect all the money, but I don't have 17. I can't send it to everybody, so only one person's going to get it. and the rest of them aren't going to get shit, and I stole their money. And these are simple things to understand. When we give the rich more tokens saying they own, it means your tokens are getting less and less valuable. And it's just a simple truth. You owe $40 trillion to the rich. 40 trillion. How are you going to pay it back? Oh, that's right, you can't. Alright, so anyway. So, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, I've done my job for this video. So glad to be back on my right channel. I mean, it should be that way, but I'm sad in the sense that Google is so evil and nothing's stopping it and nobody's doing anything to regulate it. You can't even see any, the search results are getting terrible. I mean, you do image searches now, it's all from stores. You don't even get search results from the internet anymore. You just get it all from Walmart and some store somewhere. It's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, it's a horrible search engine. So we're not even getting the search engine anymore. So there are billions and billions of dollars. The search is getting worse, and the ads are just getting more and more prolific. And so it's clearly just a marketing company. And why are we letting it control basic infrastructure? Really bad idea. But people just aren't smart, and they're full of shit, full of bullshit, stupid, silly notions of reality. So they just ain't getting any of these equations right. They don't know how to play the fact game well at all. Anyway, till the next time. That's enough. So yeah, I don't like you people much. Even the ones that get it don't get it right.